doing this goes like that.
And once you get the feet down, get the feet down.
Don't know actually.
Just hold it.
There we go. Okay, so this is gonna work.
Is you're gonna be in slideshow mode first.
This is literally just
Kill this. Don't need it, and then the last thing I want is for Skype to go off.
I mean, as long as it's stable. Yes.
stable.
I mean,
I think there's a little bump on the bottom where it clicks into place. You see it on this side? That might be it. I don't know.
No, that's just that's just trying to hold on.
Because we're just setting on Arthur. What happened to Arthur?
That is his.
So the way this is gonna work is it's gonna be in slideshow mode. So
Alright. Watch out.
that's what you're gonna do. When you get to a part where I signal you to play a clip, press Windows, click here, and just click on the clip. It's already open for you. Don't close this or I'll have to reopen it. Here's the 3 clips for this one. They're already here. And then once the clip's done playing, you click back into the slideshow. Or you Alt-Tab, don't click because we'll go to the next slide. We don't want that. Alt-Tab back into the slideshow. Okay. So you just Windows out here, play the clip, and Alt-Tab back in.
Do we want to put it on this side?
I'll try it once just to make sure I got it down.
That's how it's going to be.
Well, we're probably gonna have to move the table.
Are we?
Because this is as far as I can get the projector without unplugging it.
As far as you can get it from what?
Valid. So not down over there. Yeah. So.
So move the table this way, put the projector here.
I mean, basically, it would put the projector. It would put the screen on for you.
Would it? I don't think it would.
If you set the screen there,
Question, how far is that cable? Is that
This cable's long.
how long is the power cable?
Basically, what you see. Unless I can find a spare
Can we use your
extension
expansion
cord.
or the extension?
Well, no, I'm not going to use one of his.
Okay, then.
No.
I'm gonna need it for
That's fine. That's fine. I'm just asking whether or not we.
This could be a problem. Does it only do HDMI?
No, we have VGA cable.
VGA?
Yeah, because these aren't long enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get the VGA cable. That's not a problem.
We can move this table around. You want to do that? It'll take 30 seconds.
Let me see how it looks with the projector here.
Right?
Because someone. No, not quite. No, I'm talking power cable. Yeah, the extension cord I needed for the other. So we got another. Let me get you another. Okay, that works.
Oh, that's an extension.
Just use this one for that. Okay.
Okay. Do we want to put it over here then? No.
Don't mind me. It's been a frustrating morning.
I understand that frustration. Makes up for
So. Are you really sure? It's just gonna be running. Right. It might be better to move the table over here. That's what I was originally thinking. Yeah. So that at that point we would be next thing. You want? We'll do that. Can move tables. You got that? Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna you're gonna move your table? Yep. You wanna grab the other down? And hopefully we can do this without screwing anything. You're fine. Right there.
I'll move it here. You guys position the projector.
And do you want to? I think I put the PGA cable in the other.
This is slightly. Slightly to the right. Oh yeah. Should we just for visibility for the whole room? 5 was 3. Yeah, that should be pretty good.
I think we had this problem last year when I was really.
I would say the best is the channel.
I had the power cable like stretched. It wasn't good. Last year. Thank you. There's no rush for the microphone. She doesn't.
I do Shakespeare and acting.
Go duck.
Okay, so those projectors there. The projector projecting.
Somebody else will just recreate. I'm saying if you were to move them together and have all Is this your house?
Grab the password.
I put it in the wrong spot.
Tested out while we were doing stuff.
I tried to. I'm not intimately familiar with PowerPoint, so just
whenever
window
you-
out and then.
To do the next frame, you hit forward.
Right.
To go backwards, you hit back. When I tell you to play, when I tell you to play a clip, press Windows, press the Windows key.
Yeah.
Select the file,
And I got the thing up here too.
select the file, and play the clip number. It's that easy.
Alright.
And then when you go back, just Alt Tab, back in. Alright.
Okay, so just press Alt Tab. That's what I was doing wrong. I just kept hitting Tab.
And oh wait,
You got that tape handy?
I didn't bring it again.
What's up? Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, so every time I want to do this towards you, it means next slide.
Alright. Then how about I guess a thumbs up for the clip if we need.
Okay.
Hello, everybody! Can you hear me all the way back there? I'm loud. So, hi, this is Science the Flank on the Ponies. This is the first one of 3 I'm doing this convention. I have a 4th one that's an adult panel. Be prepared. How old are these ponies? How do they age? What's their kind of biology when it comes to growing up? So, first off, brace yourselves. It's going to be a whole lot to take in. And remember, until the show confirms anything I say, it's all theory. And you can poke holes in my theory. I am a scientist. I am okay with being wrong. I'm wrong a lot. But in the meantime, prepare for science. So, who am I? I am Fiaura, also known as Queen Quake for BabsCon. And as of last night, my fans sent me this and named it Tread Lightly. I have been in the field of human sexuality and communication for 7 years at the University of Rutgers. I have a master's degree in that field. I also have published 3 academic papers in that field. These panels were inspired by Diamond Doodle, who's a founding member of BabsCon, and the entirety of all 8 panels that I am going to be running this year are her fault. So, forgot a picture. I forgot 2 pictures here. That is my bad. We have to use a lot of different references to determine the age of these ponies. I have to determine when they start kindergarten to get an idea of when they're considered old enough to educate. I have to use real-world examples because figuring out how old Granny Smith is was actually the core for figuring out how old the rest of them are. And we have to use Spike's birthday cake, which has 13 candles. Also, clip 1.
Oh, cool. Sorry.
It's okay. This is my assistant. He's a fan of mine, Arthur Carter. I think this is his first time being in front of you. So this is a clip. I don't think we have proper sound. That isn't getting louder, does it?
Fluttershy is very quiet.
Okay, we don't have proper sound yet, but basically it is a clip of Pinkie Pie calling Fluttershy her auntie, and Fluttershy goes, "But I'm a year older than you." So this got me thinking, how old are these ponies actually? So moving back to here, Granny Smith, we know, is a second generation pony to Ponyville. She moved there as a filly. We have an entire story, and since we don't have sound yet, I won't actually play the clip. But she has an entire story of how Ponyville was founded, how they came to Ponyville as settlers, and that gives me a point of reference to begin building a timeline in years to determine how old Granny Smith is. So, a couple things also bother me. We see a lot of older Earth ponies. Have never, ever seen an older unicorn, period. I had to watch the entire show twice over to make sure of that. I read the entire Wonderbolts Academy book. I read 2 other books by Laura Faust about My Little Pony, and I still could not find an older unicorn. The only one we ever have referenced is Star Swirl the Bearded. That's it. And I went, that's weird. We only ever see 2 older Pegasi and hear of 1 other one. Otherwise, We never actually see them. Those two older Pegasi are Wonderbolts, and only one of them has had his main turn gray. And that comes from Rarity's investigation and when Rainbow Dash is accused of sabotaging Spitfire. So, we also see more Earth ponies in other places besides Ponyville. Looking at all the background ponies, yes, I had to sit there and go through every single episode and count them. I found that there's a significantly larger number, almost 2/3 of all the ponies we see are Earth ponies. That's a little odd. So using this and a bunch of other scientific numbers, I'm able to slowly work out how old each type of pony is and can get. Only elder Pegasus we ever see. Only one with a gray mane we ever see. Even Spitfire's mom looks my age. Not like she's had a kid who's grown up and had a career in the military long enough to become a base commander. So, here we have most of the population of Ponyville. And on the next slide, I have them marked. We have 8 unicorns in this picture, 7 Pegasi, and of the 37 ponies in here, the rest are Earth ponies, with one zebra. So, key notes to remember here. How often are Cutie Mark Crusader episodes led by Apple Bloom? Why don't we see any older unicorns? Why do we see so few older Pegasi, and why do Spitfires, and as of the most recent season, Rainbow Dash's parents look so young? Lastly, I have come to this conclusion. All the different types of ponies mature at the same rate, but they grow older at different rates. Which brings us to something suspicious is happening here. By the way, Pinkie Pie is completely abnormal, and I have an entire panel devoted to her because something is wrong there too. I had to make a whole panel about Pinkie Pie because there was no other way to explain it. So, Cutie Mark Crusader episodes by protagonist. Apple Bloom is the protagonist in 6 of them. Scootaloo's the protagonist in 4. Sweetyville is only the protagonist in 1. And shared by all 3 are 2. When does Spitfire's mom look my age?
She's got back to her eyes.
I have bags under my eyes. I'm only 30. Why does she look 30 and not in her early 40s or early 50s? So, how do I determine how old the ponies are? First, we look at Western outposts. It takes roughly 41 years on average for a Western outpost, that is a place that is not officially recognized by the U.S. Senate as having a township. It takes 41 years for the U.S. Senate to recognize that place as a township on average. That's how long it took to go from individual homesteaders to actually being a town on the map. Granny Smith to Applejack is 2 generations. Granny Smith herself is a 2nd generation of Ponyville because we know she moved there as a filly. Using Spike's age and the length of time it takes Granny Smith and Ponyville to be established, Granny Smith is 48. I'm not kidding. I wish I was. Using also the most recent episode, the pair episode about Applejack's parents, it's even worse because that's how I got the exact age, because before it was 48 to 53. Then I found out that Applejack's parents married as soon as they possibly could, which made me look at it and go, oh, Granny Smith's even younger than I thought. So, hold on. Granny Smith is 48 years old in the twilight of her life? She won't live to be another 3 to 5 years? What am I talking about? What ramifications do we have here? Well, Applejack is going to have to be replaced as a member of the main 6 3 times before Fluttershy and 22 before Rarity. I wish I was kidding. Twilight is possibly ageless due to becoming a princess and the magical properties of Equestria. I go over that in the magic panel. Spitfire's mom is older than Granny Smith by 7 to 12 years. That is because it takes on average 7 to 12 years for a person in the military to achieve a command post position. With that in mind, Spitfire has a command post position. She's in charge of the Wonderbolts. She's had her career for at least 7 years, if not as many as 12, to get to that point. Which also, the Wonderbolts is how to figure out how old Pegasi are. So, next slide. So, how do we determine how old Pegasi are? Well, I have this lovely clip that I can actually play even without sound that shows the Pegasi, that shows the Wonderbolt commanders we know of. That, at least the ones we have pictures of. Go quick. 3. That's it.
Whoops.
So we have Spitfire, who's the 11th commander. There's only been 11 in 1,000 years. Think about that for a minute. We have General Flash, who's before her, and served a full term, according to the Wonderbolt's Academy book, as commander. He's also the one that served the longest. We have Fairy Flight, which I don't have a commander. I don't know when he was a commander, but it states he was. We have Colonel Purple Dart, who is the 7th. We have General Firefly, who's one of the founders. And we have... Come on, no, it's only 6 seconds. Admiral Failweather, who's the other founder. At the time, 1,000 years ago, when Luna was imprisoned. There's 5 other commanders, according to the Wonderbolt's Academy book, that we never see or have mentioned. Don't know their names, don't know what they look like, have nothing for them. Back the slides. Back. So, we know a lot of this from the Wonderbolt Academy book. We can reference it. It's 1,000 years is how long the Academy's been around to train and create Wonderbolts, and that's how long the unit's been around. Commander Purple Dart from the 4th era. We have Fairweather and Fairy Flight. We're alive at the same time. Easy Glider was never in charge, according to the book. He is one of the ones who created a lot of the key aerial aerobatics routines. And we know Flash was before Spitfire. Firefly founded them 1 year after Luna was imprisoned 1,000 years ago. Lastly, we know there's 11 commanders, as I went over. So, Firefly was in the last 1/3 of his life when he founded the Wonderbolts. That means he was only in charge for 1/3 of the time of everyone else. Spitfire is in the first third of her life, which means she's only been around for 1/3 of how long she is. We divide evenly by 1,000, 11 into 1,000, and we assume Firefly and Spitfire only get 1/3 of their lifetime. At most, I would estimate Spitfire only gets 10 years because her being put in charge is reset. So, using a huge equation, by the way, I don't actually have up here, that takes trigonometry because you have to figure out 1/3 of something you don't actually know the answer to. We have 1,000 divided by 11 is 90.9. We assume the 1/3 lifespan. We do this calculation once I get that math, once I get the calculus involved, and we come out to 98.76 years is the average amount of time a Wonderbolt commander was in charge. We had 12 years to their lifespan beforehand, because that's how long Spike's been around, in order to figure out how long it takes them to mature and be educated, plus an additional 6 years before they start kindergarten. That's according to Twilight herself. Lastly, we assume 5 years for retirement, because the way Equestria works, it seems like everybody works till they're dead. So I just assume there's 5 years from the time they go, I'm not in charge anymore, they are, till the time they go, I'm going to go find a place to lay down for a while. Bringing the total time a Pegasus is around to 121.76 years, on average, from birth to death. And all of you are doing this at me right now, and I know you are. I'm going to wait for it. 5, 4, 3, 2. This just got really dark. Really, really dark. Twilight is going to have to watch all of her friends, pending some magical force interfering with it, grow old and die. And she might not even be the midlife yet. Her and Rarity are going to be the only two who are going to be around after that point. Sweetie Belle is going to outlive all the other Crusaders. While dark, I'm going to say this gives a lot deeper meaning to their actions. Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo understand that Apple Bloom isn't going to be around for very long. They want to make Apple Bloom's life as eventful and wonderful and memorable as possible, because they know when they grow old, Apple Bloom's already going to be gone. Sweetie Belle knows when she grows old, Scootaloo's going to be long gone. This also explains why a lot of things we see in fall start with the Earth Ponies panicking. And the Pegasi are like, we can fix it tomorrow. And the unicorns are like, I'm going to go research the problem. That's their exact reactions. Because the unicorns react to things slower because time passes for them slower. The Pegasi always look at it as, I can do it tomorrow. And the Earth ponies are like, I don't have tomorrow, I need to do it now. And this is what you're all doing now. Excellent. So, this is why the Earth ponies are so go, 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 go. Because they know they have short lives. They know they're only going to be around for 48 to 60 years before they're all gone. And the Pegasi, as I said, are relaxed, and they can always look at it as we can do it tomorrow, or if I make a mistake, I can make up for it. Because they know that they have tomorrow longer than the other ponies. Whereas the unicorns, especially in Rarity's case, we look at them and we go, and Twilight especially too, why don't you ever learn anything? It's like we just did this over and over and over again. Because they don't seem to learn because they have longer lifespans. They don't feel the need to drill it into their head immediately because they're going to be around for 50 more years. Which brings me to the unicorns. I'm going to admit, I don't know. As a scientist, there is no way for me to determine how old the unicorns actually are. We never, ever see an old one. Period. We only hear of Star Swirl the Bearded. And he worked for, quote, centuries.
And apparently he's still alive now, according to other supplemental material. It's been over 1,000 years.
Because he developed a time travel spell in
The point is, we don't ever see an old one. I've been through every episode. I've been through all supplemental material. There's never one who's old. Period. I'm not even going to get into alicorn age, but unicorns just don't seem to grow old. Even the depiction I've seen of Twilight's parents, they're not old. They haven't even begun aging. They look like Twilight. Even though Twilight's parents are supposedly older than Spitfire's mom. This is also why they're always slow to react, slow to adapt, slow to change. People who know they're going to live longer, that we always depict as fantasy realms, like for example elves, they always do stuff as, I can take 100 years to make this sword, because I'm going to be here for 10,000 years. I may as well make sure I get it right. In addition to this, biologically speaking, this is why we see the fewest unicorns. Because they are going to live for so long, the need for reproduction is not there. This is why we don't see a lot of them everywhere. Even in Canterlot, you see more earth ponies and Pegasi than you see unicorns. And I was just like, what is going on? So, unicorns' agelessness gets this to the grimmest of the grimdark logically possible. I would guess they live an incredibly long time, equating them to the elves in the My Little Pony universe. That means they have to deal with death a lot. You see them as, a lot of times you see them not interacting with other ponies. Yeah.
Nope. I haven't.
Yes? Nope. Not working.
Yeah, it is. It's just turned up. It's just turned up.
You gonna have done that thing correctly now?
Correct.
Hello? Hey. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. So this explains why what's that? We see a lot of relationships that are the same type of pony. Like if I was saying this, like unicorns with unicorns. You can blast me, I'm fine. Hello? Can you hear me now? Awesome. But this is why a lot of the background pony relationships you see are the same types of ponies. Unicorns going out to dinner with unicorns. Pegasi all live in Cloudsdale for some reason. Because they know that if they get into relationships with other types of ponies, those types of ponies are going to either outlive them or die sooner than them. And they're worried about that. We're all worried about how relationships end. In communications, there's number one rule. Every relationship you start has an end point. Doesn't matter if that end point is you break up, you drift apart, or someone dies. The relationship always immediately has an end point the moment it starts. With this, we see as to why the ponies interact the way they do with the same type of ponies as much as they can, because they don't want the end of that relationship to be sooner rather than later. So, ladies and gentlemen, how much time do I actually have left? Presented that really quick.
I'm not sure.
Check your phone.
That's recording.
So that is most of my presentation. I had some other stuff on here, but it was really, really dark, and I didn't want to actually have to go into it because I didn't know if I was going to have little kids in here or not. And I don't want to traumatize your children. But you are allowed to ask any questions you want. You can poke holes in my theory at your will. This is my YouTube channel. Any panels that I do, after they've been presented at least at one convention, I present them on my YouTube channel. So these will be presented. You guys won't be in them, obviously, because I don't want to put in random people, because random people have problems being put up on YouTube. But they will be there for you guys. Or if you don't want to ask your question publicly, that is my business email address. I get to it about twice a week. So I will answer anything you don't want asked publicly. And at BabsCon, all 9 of the Science the Flank panels will be presented on day 0, no badge day. That is the Thursday before the con starts. We're doing a no badge day because we have access to the panel rooms. And we're going to use them. You can come in without a badge and just go to the panels. So, questions. And I see you irritating already. Go ahead.
2. First, what do you think of how, I think it was McCarthy said, Twilight won't outlive her friends?
What do I think of that? It's because of the nature of magic and Equestria, and I'm going to go over that in the magic panel. But basically, because friendship magic now exists, it has altered their lifespans.
Okay. And second, your thing about the time to get a township, or time to get an outpost to a town, is cool, but how do we know it has only just become a town when the show starts?
Because they have their 3rd town anniversary with Rainbow Dash setting up decorations with Derpy.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the theory dealt with unicorns. There being very few of them because they're not reproducing and being at the top of this food chain. How do you explain then the relationship between Mrs. and Mr. Case that produces pumpkin and pound?
So the question is, if unicorns and Pegasi are producing as much as earth ponies, and the production of unicorn of pound cake and pumpkin cake from 2 earth ponies, genetically speaking, it happens. And as we see with relationships in human lives, we do not restrict relationships, nor do we restrict ideas of love outside of politics by race. That means that it's entirely possible that by race of pony, someone falls in love, you go with it. We saw that in 2 Perfect Pairs with Applejack's parents, where it didn't matter the barriers, they did it anyway. So taking that into account, it means that to ponies, love is love, love whoever you want, it happens. It's genetically predispositioned to happen since they're genetically compatible.
But you don't believe that there's, based on the show, that there's not an interbreeding between the unicorns, the Pegasi, and the ponies?
I do not, because oftentimes when we see people's parents, such as with Rainbow Dash's parents, they're both Pegasi, such as with Starlight Glimmer's friend, I forget his name, but Sunburst, both his parents are unicorns. We see that a lot of the time. The filly attached to the parents is both the parents are the same. We very rarely actually see 2 parents who are of different pony breeds together with their foal. So by that logic, it seems like they do not actually interbreed very often. Yes, in the back, and then I'll get to you. I just explained that. So how are the cake blade babies explained by them rarely, if ever, interbreeding? I just explained that in the pony world, basically love is love to them. In our world, racially speaking, we have a lot of interracial relationships. Love is love to us if we don't get politics involved. Therefore, it only seems logical that if they fall in love, they'll go with it. Same thing with, say, Applejack's parents being politically divided and still getting married in spite of their parents. The genetics is very simple. So somewhere down the line, they fell in love as interbreeding. They did it anyway. We have, and therefore the cakes both have interbred children. Now the interesting part here is their parents are going to die before they even get to midlife.
That's gonna be rough. That's gonna be incredibly rough. Another thing that's gonna be incredibly rough, and you're all gonna wanna hurl something at me, Octavia and DJ Pone 3. Yeah, Octavia's an Earth Pony. She's going to pass away before DJ Pone 3 even gets into what we would consider her 30s. I told you it gets dark.
I was wondering if one of the reasons that you don't see old unicorns is not because they're not old, but because they're able to use magic to physically alter themselves, like people use makeup, to appear younger.
I don't think they can actually do that, because we've never seen an example where for instance, Rarity uses makeup products. She doesn't use magic to alter the blush in her skin. She doesn't use magic to change how she looks. She uses objects controlled by magic. So looking at that, I don't believe that's actually the case. More importantly, we do see Star Swirl the Goated does look old. He physically does look old. That might be his personal choice. But I don't think that's the reason. I think because they are more bound to the magic in Equestria, i.e. unicorn magic over just having cutie mark magic, they therefore have a magical sense that is keeping them around longer because their bodies are not causing cell degradation as quickly. You first.
So, so it's not like the unicorns, like, all, they're taking, like, a Twilight, apes, like, a mustache, or, like, how she altered, Trixie doing, or Trixie altered, Rarity's hair, or mane, being green. So they could, like, make themselves younger, but socially they wouldn't see the need to do it.
Socially, they might not see it, may or may not see a need to do it, but we also see the spells you mentioned are temporary. I have never seen an alter appearance or alter form spell in the show that had a permanent lasting effect that was not either undone or simply faded away.
And also, could you, explain the math part again? I was having trouble with that.
Which one? The Pegasus math?
Yes.
So you have 1,000 years of Wonderbolts. You have 11 commanders. 11 divided by 1,000. And then we take 1/3 of that answer. And we know that that means that the first commander was in charge for 1/3. We know Spitfire is recent, so at most we give her 1/3 of that same command time. And therefore we have this little remainder that we have to then add back into the original 98 to come up to 127.
I can add to the aging thing in the same episode that was mentioned. We see that Trixie is astounded that Twilight does an aging spell on someone saying that's not possible. And it isn't, because Twilight cheated.
Yeah.
But my question is more of a, like, I don't know what the term is. This is also assuming that pony years are the same as our years when we don't really know that predicting.
Well, we kind of do. We know that Twilight talks about the starting age for ponies in kindergarten is 6. And we see that they have regular school. And understanding that much, we have an idea of how long they are around. But then seeing that we have this 1,000-year span with these other ponies interjecting, it makes sense that if they live that long, they probably go to school for as long as we do. You are right, that is a scientific assumption at that point, but it's an assumption based upon what's called circumstantial evidence.
Even given her advanced age of 48, I said that as a 46-year-old, how do we account for Granny Smith's really sort of extreme decrepitude? I mean, she seems just physically much older than any other pony that we've seen.
Well, we can work this out through the idea of how much work she's done. Like for instance, my grandfather raced horses for a living for a very long time. He also aged really quick from all the strenuous hard work and has the worst arthritis I've ever seen.
So it's just physical
It's
labor.
just physical labor causing minor injuries that causes you to have to regenerate more cells than everybody else, which means your cells degrade faster. We also see that in Grandpapa Pear in the most recent episode, where he's about the same age as Granny Smith, and he's decrepit.
Some other question.
I was going, you use the aging of Spike as kind of the
Baseline.
as sort of the baseline, and that made me start thinking about how the both population and aging of other races might be affected. Because we see a young Gilda joining, like in the episode Treasure of Griffinstone, we see a young Gilda, and then we kind of see her at sort of the same age as Rainbow Dash, wherever she might be. So I'm wondering how that might affect Griffin's age and population, and the biggest one, dragons, the guys who take 100-year sleeps.
I have no clue. I have very little information to go on. I tried really hard to figure out griffins. I tried really hard to figure out dragons. I even tried to figure out a manticore, and just did not have enough information to get anywhere with that. But using Spike's age of 12 is also how I came to the conclusion that they have about 16 to 17 years of education from birth until the time they're released, because Twilight hatched him as part of her magical kindergarten. And if he's 12 years old, and magical kindergarten starts at 6, that's how I came to that conclusion.
Yes.
Yes. I'll get you next. Oh, go ahead.
So I'm curious, so you've done all this work, and it's pretty impressive from what I can tell. It's all based on a cartoon show, which is all done by the whim of the writers.
Yes.
So they could change this tomorrow with a new scene that blows everything out of water. So my question is to you, as a scientist who's sat there and done this work, done this research, and come up with a theory, what is it you're getting out of this?
The sheer idea of satisfying my curiosity.
Fair enough.
People ask me to find out answers to questions, and I will pour myself heart and soul into that until I find a plausible answer. So I have done, I have put Warhammer 40k miniatures inside of wind tunnels for the last 4 months to figure out if they fly or not. I have taken apart Warhammer 40k miniatures to find out exactly how thick the armor on a Baneblade is. I have done over 200 hours of research into My Little Pony to answer 8 questions, and ended up with a 9th theory that basically says all the ponies are drunk, intoxicated, on drugs, or something is terribly wrong that involves narcotics. That's tonight, everybody, at 1 a.m. It is how my brain works, is that I get questions and I have to find out the answer. And oddly enough, according to my fans and according to the pony avatar they sent me yesterday, I think better with explosions. So I just imagine Tread Lightly over there sitting there throwing hand grenades going, yes, interesting, eureka!
Yeah, so I was wondering, given that there are very few unicorns, and you believe that the unicorns have a very long lifespan, how many generations do you think of unicorns have there been in the progress of the show, say, 1,000 years ago to the point that the show's at right now?
4. The reason for that answer is because I have actually sat down and looked at all the unicorns we have mentioned and tried to figure out kind of where their generational gap is to try to find out what their age was. And I came to the conclusion there's been about 4 generations of unicorns, not counting the current generation, that have led to where we are now, which means that they're about 250 years old before they decide who they're going to have a foal with.
Yeah, by that, in extension, how many generations have there been of Pegasi and their unicorn?
Pegasi, we know there's been 11 because we have the Wonderbolt Academy book telling us there's been 11. That's how I figured out Pegasus and Pegasi age. Earth Pony wise, that means there's been 33 to 37 generations of Earth Ponies.
Really makes Starlight's comment about you can spend the rest of your lives here darker.
Significantly.
Yes.
Any comment about length of time now becomes significantly darker based upon which pony is in trouble. Because if it's a unicorn in trouble, you can spend the rest of your life somewhere. That's going to be a really, 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 really long time. If it's an Earth pony, it's going to be like, that's like 10 years from now. I need to leave.
It also kind of gives a little bit more credence to Starlight's reluctance to form friendships if you have such a dichotomy in age, too.
If you have such a dichotomy in age, reluctance to form friendships makes sense for all the ponies who can reluctant to form friends and who have social anxiety problems. Because part of the fear of friendship is the loss of the friend. which is something the show has been very careful to not actually deal with, is the death of someone yet. So I'm waiting for that episode to see what happens.